Master elements.
Racism and white supremacy is a dynamic system for the ultimate purpose of white genetic survival on the planet. White supremacy.
You are in an evil system, a system that is designed deliberately to produce evil thoughts, to produce animosity, to produce violence.
Introduction to African civilizations and man-garden civilization.
Master elements. Master elements.
We dedicate lives to the study of history.
They didn't tell us that if you give up the man, you're going to take one of these things and it's worse and it will destroy your nation.
The right way is clearly distinct from error.
Racism is a competitive relationship between groups of people who are competing for the ownership and control of resources, wealth, and power.
I am a critical thinker, here to bless you with lyrical tinctures. I am the black dot, the point of reference, the metaphysical link to the Moors, the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Incas. I am here to remove the blind spots and clear the view of your spiritual blinker. I am something out of nothing. I am the alchemical bringer of change. My name will continue to linger. I am legend. If consciousness was a game, I would be considered a ringer. I am because we are.
And those Africans have to be organized to fight for their liberation.
GW Apparel, a clothing that speaks. Something for the kings, something for the queens. Visit uptsites.com and use promo code SLDG22 and receive 11% off your order. Peace.
Yeah, like that. Let's see what's in the God's mind. Listen.
I'm Allah in the person of sincere love to God. That mean they arms too short like tall Anthony Shaw. Let me get my background music popping real quick. Alright. Y'all let me know how that sounds volume-wise. I don't want it to be drowned out by the music on here. But welcome, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of Sincere Love the Godcast. I am the God, Sincere Love. And today, I will be joined by a few good men. We're going to be chopping it up on the music tip today, man. We were engaging on Facebook in this 30-day challenge. Shout out to my brother Wakil Allah. Wakil Allah, the God, had tagged me in this 30-day challenge thing that was going on Facebook, where you just post, each day you post an album cover that represents an album that influenced your taste in music, without no explanation about the album, without no breakdowns, no reviews, no nothing. You just post the album cover every day of something that influenced your overall taste in music. And you gotta tag somebody every day. You tag a different person every day, and they choose to participate or not. But it became a fun thing over those 30 days. It became a fun thing to do, and also an educational thing. You know what I'm saying, for myself, because a lot of people that participated Was bringing some obscure music, some exclusive joints that I wasn't up on. And, you know, I was doing my homework, you know what I'm saying? Because these are brothers that I respect. I respect their mindset. I respect their taste in music. And so they was putting me on to a lot of joints that I wasn't up on. Certain joints I might have heard of, but I never got a chance to check it out. I might have knew about the artist, but I didn't know the particular album, things of that nature. But each day I was taking notes, and I would go add those joints to my you know, my playlist on Tidal and all of that. And I was going to check a lot of that stuff out and getting put on to some real gems, man. So it was a fun 30 days. And so being that we weren't, with the challenge, we weren't able to give our reviews and explain why we chose what we chose, we decided, a few of us decided to get together on here, do this live, and just do a recap of the 30-day challenge. And so today, I got my brother, DJ RP Beats in the building.
Peace, King. Peace.
Welcome to the Godcast, King. You see, I got the master table encoded in the background. I felt like, you know, I'll only use this background for today, even though we're not encoding the master table. We're still on the music vibe. I felt like, you know, let's put the master features on display as we top up the game. You know what I'm saying?
Dope.
And also, we are joined by my brother, Mr. Ishmael is in the building. Peace to the brother, Mr. Ishmael. What's going on, King?
Peace. How y'all be?
Peace, King.
Great, man. Appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you representing that master table right there in the background.
Well, the other way.
You know what I'm saying?
It's over there. That's right.
Yep. And so we're going to have one other guest, hopefully, pulling up on us any minute now. We're having a little connection issue on this side, but our brother Mr. Weston, definitely looking forward to him joining us for this discussion tonight. He was like probably the main one that was putting me on to a lot of records that I wasn't familiar with over those 30 days. So definitely looking to get some insight from him. Once he gets this connection and everything together, we'll get him on to join us as well. But peace to the family, everybody that's here right now. Make sure that you guys are hitting the like button as they're coming up in here. You might be watching us on Facebook, or you might be watching us on YouTube. Either way, hit the like button. Share this on your profile, let everybody know that we are live right now. If you are somebody who was participating in the challenge as well, let us know in the chat if you got down with the challenge as well. We definitely want to get y'all energy and y'all feedback as well as we chop it up. We couldn't get everybody on here. This live will be on for the rest of the week. Trying to get everybody on here talking about why they chose what they chose and what the different influences was and all of that. So I wanted to keep it to a minimum. So we got Brother Ish with us, we got RP Beats, myself, and hopefully Mr. Weston will be joining us in just a minute. So yeah, like, share, subscribe to us on YouTube, man. If you're not already subscribed to Sincere Love to God on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you can be reminded whenever we go live with new content on this channel. And also subscribe to Godcast Enterprises on YouTube too. We got the other channel over there, me and my sister Nicey Girl, where we really host Sincere Love to Godcast on a weekly basis. Godcast ENT on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to that channel as well. So fellas, we here, man.
Good.
How y'all feeling, man? Y'all good?
Good. Yo, you could turn that beat down just a little bit. A little bit more.
Now? Okay.
Yeah.
Bring the line down on that. So we ain't got a screen over each other.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, we good.
How's that? That's good?
Yeah, that's good.
That's right.
Yep.
Good. And y'all let us know in the chat too. Y'all let us know in the chat if the music is too loud or whatever in the background. Just want to create a little vibe.
Yeah.
Create a little vibe for today. So 30-day challenge. I think I tagged both of y'all in it, right?
Yep.
I tagged both of y'all in it.
Yep.
Yeah. And so what was, let's just off the rip, what was the number one on day one? What was the first album that you chose? And what was the thought process behind choosing that album, RPP?
My first album was Only Built for Cuban Links. and I chose that album. The thought of it was like a no-brainer, based on that album being so, such a heavy weight for me in terms of the production, in terms of the impact on the culture during the time when it came out, where I was at, what was going on, how influential RZA was production wise, how that influenced me. The Clan was at their height, and so when that album came out, it just solidified, their power even much more as a collective. The Nas feature, Verbal Intercourse, Rainy Days, the Guillotine Swords joint. I mean, it was just so many joints on there. Criminology was one of my favorite records of all time. Beat, lyrics, ghost, verse. I mean, it's nothing really to say. Heaven and Hell, Can It All Be So Simple remix. I mean, we could go on and on. And so when you put that challenge before me, that was the first album that just bing, bing, bing. You know what I'm saying? Like Ice Water. You know what I mean? So, that was my first joint. I had to go with Only Built for Cuban Links, man.
Okay, no doubt. What about you, Mr. Ish?
So let me tag on to that. You can't forget Glaciers.
Yeah, Glaciers of Ice. Yeah. Oh yeah. Come on, man.
Hold on one second.
All
Mr.
right.
Weston, can you hear us? Check your mic real quick.
Yes.
All right. We can't see you, but we can hear you. That's good enough.
Cool.
That's good enough. But welcome to the Godcast, brother.
All right, welcome.
Peace,
peace, brother.
Peace.
Yeah, get this song. I like that first pick. I only go for Cuban Links.
Thank you.
That's a great one. Classic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, go ahead. As you were, brother Ish.
Okay, so I had to tap in on that. That's one of my favorite singles of all time, and it was hard for me to not pick Only Built for Cuban Links and put something else in there, But my first one, off the rip, without even thinking hard, was Marvin Gaye, What's Going On.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you said music, and that's what my mind directly goes to is Marvin Gaye. I could just choose his, discography or the 4-disc joint. I forget the name of it. I got it. I could have went there, but I was like, nah, that's the one right there. Okay. What's Going On, the song itself is timeless. Okay. And I want to add something before we move on to Mr. West. For me, when we talk classic, it involves time. Okay. The time is speaking of, all right, meaning the era, what's going on around you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it transcends time, right? And whether it can be consistently played in the future, whether people are going to feel it, vibe to it. That's for me what a classic is. And What's Going On is definitely top tier, brother.
Right.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. And so I wanna just read the caption for the challenge real quick, so for people who's not up on the challenge could be, all the way tapped into what we got going on. So the challenge, it says, I've been given a task to choose 30 albums that greatly influenced my taste in music. One per day for 30 consecutive days. No explanations, no reviews, just album covers, and select a friend to do the same. Friends could choose to participate, but if not, that's fine. But that was the caption that we was going with. And so what was your first pick, Mr. Weston?
Mine was dramatic. What you see is what you get. And like Ms. Ishmael said, I chose to start off with classic soul album. And one of the things you'll notice a pattern with me throughout the 30-day challenges, I sought to choose albums with iconic album covers. Like 10 album covers. And dramatic, that album had an iconic, had a unique album cover, art. And then on top of that is classic soul, that fusion between slow, mid-tempo, up-tempo. I kind of want to get something like that off the bat because I knew people had already kind of chosen the Marvin albums. What's Going On is always going to be right there in the canon. So I kind of kind of went a little bit in a slightly different direction, but a classic soul album nonetheless. And that was
No
my
doubt.
thinking behind that.
No doubt, no doubt. So yeah, my first choice. And do y'all hear echo from me?
No, you fine.
No.
Okay, good.
No.
My first choice was Bobby Brown album, man.
Oh.
I went with the Bobby Brown album as my first choice. The Don't Be Cruel album.
Right.
Okay.
Because
classic.
that album for me, it just brings me back to my childhood. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the first albums that I remember having in my hand and just playing it over and over and over again. You know what I'm saying? It just brings me back to, you know, I don't know, was it 87, 88, somewhere around there, visiting my aunt's house. My aunt, shout out to my aunt, Donna Jean. She was the first person I knew that had a CD player. And that Bobby Brown album, I played that joint until it was all scratched up. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was Bobby Brown as a child. So that was just one of those early childhood memories of me really falling in love with music. You know what I'm saying? That's why I chose that one as my first pick. I think for me also, and y'all see as we progress through this conversation, my approach to why I was choosing certain albums started to change throughout. You know what I'm saying? Like I was considering what the caption was saying. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to just go with. After a while, I was like, I don't want to just pick classic albums. Like, okay, that's not what the caption is asking. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to just pick the albums that I play the most, the albums that that I know by heart and all of that. It says, you know, what influenced my taste in music. So I started to think of albums that expanded my palette, that put me on to different genres or different lanes. You know what I'm saying? That gave me, you know, a more of a different outlook on music. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I chose some of the albums going forward.
Right.
So let's go to number 2, RP.
I went with D'Angelo's Voodoo album.
Oh,
crazy.
Great album.
You know,
Interesting. Great album.
That album impacted, you know, it was during that time when it dropped, it was nothing like it. We hadn't heard anything that sounded like it. You know, we had that neo soul movement going on, so we had the Brown Sugar album, but he decided to go more vintage, and he really went to another level in terms of production. Him and Questlove sonically, what they were able to incorporate. Also, as far as the drums, they brought Jay Dilla in on that project as well to give him a different look in terms of what he was looking for. And then when you talk about DJ Premier with Devil's Pie, you know, for him to go to DJ Premier was so epic. And what kind of led me into that album was Belly, because Devil's Pie was a part of Belly. So then, you know, that really gave me a look, was like, oh, D'Angelo's going to a different space with this next project. And so as we started digging in, it was like, oh my God, you know, chicken grease and, you know, all that vintage funk and just black rock and roll and soul. And it was like a whole gumbo pot, you know, that album. And it's just so many moments, you know, on that album is just so epic. And he basically set the standard. And the funny thing was, he was signed to Virgin Music and they didn't want to release that album because it was so different from Brown Sugar. And, you know, as far as in his, you know, his niche in terms of his peers, they hadn't even done anything like that. So it was more than just like a jazz and jazzy project like Brown Sugar. He kind of abandoned that sound and he went to the Sly and the Family Stone and Prince, and you know what I mean? He really went a little deep. And it's just so many key moments, and it kind of gave you a glimpse of where R&B could go in that era and beyond, because after he dropped that album, everything changed.
Yeah, I think that album really gave him his mystique and his legendary status, you know, that we hold him up to. I think that was the one, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Number 2, Brother Ish.
So look, I'm a dovetail.
Real quick, just let me thank Black Voltron Reloaded for the donation. Definitely appreciate the contribution. B1.
Salute to that, brother. No
Salute.
doubt. So with RP, I like to come in and make a little comment on your selections, because you had when you pulled that one out, I was like, word, okay. I ain't tripping, but your explanation makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I was feeling it, but I wasn't feeling it like that. So it's gonna make me go revisit the album. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And plus, it kind of threw me off with the first video, and I was like, whoa. Pause.
Yeah. But even that was different. You know what I mean? Like,
hey, that was viral before viral was viral.
Right. Yeah, that was a whole nother chamber.
Yeah, that brother, he came with one then. But my second one was Earth, Wind, and Fire, the Elements. That's the way of the world. So
Earth, Wind, and Fire?
Yeah, that's the way of the world. That album.
Way of the world. Yeah.
Okay.
So look, you just mentioned about Bobby Brown and your childhood. My first 3, 4, 5, 6 albums, 7 albums is reverting back to preteen and then into my teen years, and I didn't even know I was doing that, straight up. So the first Marvin, and then Earth, Wind, and Fire, the Elements. These are all records that my father had. Okay,
right.
He would have them on the floor in the house, of course, the record player. And this is FBA magic we're talking about here. And on Sundays, whether it's family or friends, or even Saturdays, it wasn't nothing heavy going on, but they just come around, put the record player on, and you hear the, and next thing you know, you know what I mean? Then I'm just sitting there as a kid and I'm mesmerized. Yeah, I'm playing with the other kids, but at times I would just sit there and I'm hearing it and I'm watching the reaction of the adults around me. And then later on in life, I didn't even realize it. I just started leaning more towards that. When I become an adult, I started picking those records up. And Earth, Wind, and Fire was one of the first ones I picked up for sure. There's a couple of them I don't have on here, but I mean, you could go with That's the Way of the World, September. I could have went with the greatest hits, but I went with the one that had the greatest impact. I only hit greatest hits on my list maybe 2 or 3 times because I just couldn't pick one. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But Earth, Wind, and Fire, man, that's the Maurice White days. You know what I'm saying? Maurice White, when all the group was there, he was healthy. In the early days, that's when that pure magic. And I didn't even realize, of course, as a child, I didn't realize that they were talking like Egyptology. You know what I'm saying? So they was hitting on some cylinders, and it tapped into my, tapped into the Brothers Dome back then when I was a kid. And I'm like, man, this is heavy, Afrocentricity and all of that. I'm like, wow, even Marvin, even though Marvin was off into, some alternative lifestyle type of biz, my man was hitting it,
Right.
Pause. He was hitting it on the music level. Right. So you'll see, in not to give up the whole list as I go along, that's really where my list come from. It come straight off the dome. I ain't have to think about a whole lot of these because quite honestly, it's some I feel kind of bad I ain't put on here. Straight up.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. 30 days definitely is not enough.
No.
Not at all.
Mr. West.
Yes, those are 2 great choices. Love that D'Angelo album, Spanish Joint, still just enjoying it. That's the Way the World, great album. My 2 or 3 choice, I had it mixed up here. I wrote it down. It was also Earth, Wind, and Fire, though, by the way. But it was Ed Scott album, which is in that same period. It was the first, I think it was really the first album where they really did more vocals. It wasn't as instrumental. The first 2 or 3 Earth, Wind, and Fire albums were heavily instrumental and with some vocals. But it's by those albums, Head to the Sky, what's the, oh gosh, it's gonna name one one after that with a devotion on it, and then That's the Way of the World, where they really came into their own as the vocal crew as well. I mean, because prior to that it was just like jazz drumming and just kind of like a lot of riffing and stuff. But So I chose "Head to the Sky" because I love that song, "Head to the Sky," and a few other cuts on there. It's when Earth, Wind, and Fire really was a large ensemble before they kind of downsized a little more.
Yeah.
Had a female vocalist on there, Jessica Cleaves, and they had some other people. But that album, "In Evil," which is another standout cut. So I chose that once again, choosing a classic soul album that I didn't think most people would probably go to when they thought Earth, Wind, and Fire. Because typically, when you go Earth, Wind, and Fire, you think maybe That's the Way of the World, but in particular, All in All, and some of those ones that came toward the end of the decade there. But
oh yeah,
that was my next choice.
Good choice.
No doubt.
That's legendary.
No doubt. And my second choice was in the same chamber as my first choice, and that was the Keith Sweat album, "Make It Last Forever" joint.
Oh
man,
same era, same period of time, the same nostalgic memories for me. You know, that same summertime at my aunt's crib. You know what I mean? That was another CD that was on spin heavy for me. I'm singing like I'm a grown man that done been married and divorced. You know what I'm saying? So I stayed in that chamber with the number 2 pick. But I wanted to do this from the beginning, just to give people who's watching this, who might be checking us out on the replay or whatever, not familiar with who we are, a little bit about our background. You know what I'm saying? So that could give some context to, you know, our musical taste as well. So, you know, I'm sincere, love to God, man. I'm originally from New York, upstate New York, and I'll be 45 this year. You know what I'm saying? My introduction to music was, you know, like most of us foundational Black Americans, our parents' records. You know what I'm saying? My grandmoms and uncles and all them, they records. My dad, you know, he was a big Motown dude. You know what I'm saying? I remember getting all the Motown records as a child. I had an uncle, Kim Boo, who was a singer, a songwriter, guitar player. And, you know, he used to have me and my cousin sitting around on the porch and all that. He playing music and singing songs and all of that. I used to be around the guards at an early age. You know what I'm saying? The guards used to take me around to all the ciphers and all of that. And they was also B-boys too. And so I would be at all the cardboards and the linoleums outside, you know, spinning on my back and all of that with the older heads, the older B-boys in the neighborhood and all that. And so that was really my introduction to the music, you know what I'm saying, as a very, very young child, you know, just being influenced by the older people that I was around at that time. And so, RP, tell them a little bit about yourself and your musical background.
My name is DJ RP Beats. Born in Brooklyn, raised in uptown Manhattan. Also, part of my family's from Long Island, so you know I got a lot of different exposure to a lot of sounds. My cousins were DJs. My dad. So I used to just watch them. My dad had so many crates of records, and you know he would play the funk, he would play the Motown, Ohio players, all those records. You know what I mean? Like, what was interesting back then was like how brothers got together. You know, we talk about FBA, they all would collectively bring bags of vinyl to the house, as a, you know what I mean? Like, we're gonna come to your house,
cars and shit.
We're gonna play dominoes, we're gonna play cars, you know, we you know what I'm saying? We gonna each of us is gonna play different vinyl albums, and we all gonna enjoy. We're gonna sit in here for hours and eat some good food in the house and just spades, dominoes, whatever. So, you know, and while these beautiful men are in the living room doing all this, I'm a kid sitting there on the side listening to all those albums. When we talk about the OJ's album, Traveling Speed of Thought album, you know, we talk about the Ohio Players Pain album, Philadelphia International, all of these albums that these gentlemen were playing with my dad, Stevie Wonder's catalog, you know, Key of Life album. I was a kid just sitting there soaking all that up, you know. So when my dad went to work, I would go and dig in those crates. I knew those albums, and I would read the jackets. I would pull the vinyl out. I would put them on the plane, put the headphones on, and zone out. And then as I got older, then my cousins, I would watch them. this was when, you know, hip hop was just forming really early, you know, and they used to have basement parties and they would be scratching and cutting and breaks and all that. So I would just watch that and then grab those albums. You know what I'm saying? The Sugar Hill, all those records, the breakbeat albums, Ultimate Beats and Breaks. So, you know, just being exposed, man, just being around the family, everybody, you know, basically introducing different styles of music. When I was living in Manhattan, we had a whole lot of Latin influence. When we talk about Hector Lavoe and the Fania All Stars, there's a lot of records that I can go deep in on. But I, you know, during this challenge, I was like, I don't want to go too far. You know what I mean? But my palette is huge. I've been exposed, so I guess from that, it was natural to become a DJ, and then transitioning from that into a producer, because I knew all the music and I knew a lot of people who played the music. When me and Sincere was building on Bob James recently, and I talked about his label CTI, Creed Taylor. You know, we talked about Ron Carter being one of the bassists and how each of them played on those albums. We talked about Nautilus, you know, being one of the greatest breakbeats in hip hop. So I mean, I can go on and on and on, but just soaking everything up was the key for me.
Wow, that's
it. The edge on you.
So my name is Mr. Ishmael. I'm a husband, a father, son, a brother, a cousin, but I'm also a 28-year retired Army veteran. I still work, you know what I mean? I'm a lover of music and what it brings, you know, to life, more than just, you know, the things about this challenge. That's why I was really motivated by this challenge, because I knew I was going to learn something. Listening to RP, I mean, I was about to say, man, I ain't got nothing else to say outside of Hispanic. Like, that's my life in New York. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I was born and raised in Pensacola, Florida, right down at the tip of Florida, right up under Alabama, and almost like the same type of, you know, lifestyle as a kid, as I explained earlier. My mother and my father, when they were together, I would hear those things, and then they separated. I would still hear different sounds from my mother. She listened to Jackie Wilson and what's the other dude? His name will come to me in a minute. He sang country and he sang a little bit of R&B. Johnny, not Cash. The other dude,
Nash,
the light-skinned brother. You know, listening to that and just soaking that up, I could have went way left. You know what I'm saying? You know, especially like with the Jackie Wilson type of stuff. I heard that stuff as a child. That was before my time. You know what I mean? So I was learning to hear different sounds and tones. And, you know, as another part of that, I grew up in the choir, believe it or not. I was singing in the choir. So singing in the choir, you know, you hear those different rhythms. But the biggest thing I picked up from that is harmony, how harmony came into play. Everybody didn't have to be the lead vocalist, you know, and the way they had the sections off, the tenors, the sopranos. Sometimes you get that heavy brother with the bass, you know what I'm saying? And this is just from the singing, from the vocals. But I would also watch a good friend of mine, he played the drums. And when he was on the drums, I was watching him. And I'm watching the reaction of the church, and I'm watching the reaction of the pastor. All of that played into, you know, my musical palette. And if you look at when we go through the rest of this, you'll see how this all, you know, kind of molded me. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely give it up to the church, for sure.
Oh yeah, foundation.
Yeah. Mr. West, on you.
Wow, where do I begin? You know, like, it's interesting for me because I moved around. You know, after starting in New York, moved west, little Jersey, Pennsylvania, then Ohio, spent time at school, then in Detroit a little bit. So a lot of that influenced my taste in music, because it wasn't just confined to like just the pure hip hop sound and disco and all that. So I got a little bit of all that early on growing up. Like everyone here has mentioned, you know, growing up in a household where there were records were everywhere, and you know, those music influence. But then what really cemented it for me was I was in band in school, high school, then in college a little bit, and I played trumpet, little trumpet, and then I played keyboards. That's really where I spend most of my time at, is keyboard. And that really shaped me early on. And then from there, uh, that gets the whole full story. But it's as far as my music, what really shaped my musical taste and outlook. Was I DJ'd also, radio, couple different radio stations. Then I DJ'd professionally for some few handful of years. And then I got into beat mining as a DJ slash producer for a couple of hip hop groups that I was working with at the time, and one R&B group. And this was a period. You would listen to the record, you listen to the hip hop records, and you say, "Oh, I love that beat. I love that beat." Where did that come from? Who got that? So you would always read in the liner notes, contains an interpolation of such and such and such. So that really began my journey. Even though, and I had a lot of these records already, some of them, family and so forth. But then I extended my journey into getting to that aspect, started beat digging, beat mining, that is. And that just took me to a whole nother world. And then I got into record collecting, record dealing, and I learned to market. And I became big time in that. Me and a partner of mine started, going to shows, started even dealing overseas. And that's when I really learned how over in Japan and Europe. I mean, that's where a lot of you wonder where a lot of the records here stateside have gone, why they're so rare. A lot of them are overseas, and they sell them back here stateside. So that was a journey in and of itself. So all those things, just my musical journey from being a musician and starting band, DJing, doing some production and all that kind of stuff is just around music, really shaped my musical taste and outlook. And the thing I try to convey in my 30-day challenge, as you'll see as we go along, is selecting albums, from like hip hop, soul, R&B, jazz, the genres that really most influenced me. And I try to depict that. And there was a lot of albums I really want to put, and I didn't put all really truly a lot of my truly favorite albums, but I try to get an eclectic mix of all those from like you say like the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I try to really combine a lot of that period because those were all the sounds that were around me during that period. From my earliest years on up.
No doubt, no doubt. And I knew it. I knew you had to be a musician, DJ, something. I knew it just based on the stuff that you was posting. And I want to thank you personally, man. You know what I'm saying? You put me on to so much music in this last 30 days. And I really went and did my homework. You know what I'm saying? I really was listening to these joints. Like some of them I never heard of in my life. Some of them I might have heard of the artist, but I never listened to the album that you posted or whatever. I might have a song here or there, but everything that you posted, I put it on the menu. And I've been soaking it up, and I'm still soaking it up, man. So definitely I want to thank you, man, for participating.
Yes, indeed. No problem.
All right, so where we at? We on 3, right?
Yep, 3.
You know what? This we might have to do a part 2.
Yeah.
We might have to look at to be continued on this. We only on number 3, but go ahead. What was number 3 for you, PB?
Stevie Wonder, Songs in the Key of Life. That album. That was actually one of my dad's favorite albums. And just the Pastime Paradise just stood out to me a lot as a kid. And then Sir Duke was just like my all-time favorite record off there. Another Star, like that record knocks me off my feet. Isn't She Love? That whole album is just such a blueprint for what R&B became after that. I mean, he set the standard with that album. And all vocalists, neo soul, non-neo soul, they all go back to that album and they take apart in piece vocal arrangements, the musicality, all of that. The songwriting is impeccable by Stevie. Just everything, his whole vision. And the thing what for me with him was that there were so many incredible albums that he put out in that time frame, and the way he was cranking out those albums, and he was all self-reliant, self-produced. You know what I mean? He was such a genius, but I feel like Songs in the Key of Life is the blueprint for what R&B had become, because we hadn't heard anything like that until that thing dropped, and after that everybody just became his children. For me,
I think we all had that. I think we all had that album on the list somewhere.
Yeah,
that's like the album of all albums. I mean,
Close.
Yeah.
talk
Close.
about that cover, like Mr. West said. You know, it's the iconic album cover. That cover right there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like a brand. It's like a Pepsi logo or something. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Facts.
that album
Facts.
cover, like the Wu-Tang logo or something. It's just you know what it is when you see it. You can feel it. Just look at it. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
The album was totally influential. I mean, every way possible. I mean, like I said, the song, the arrangement, the songwriting, the production that Stevie brought, the subject matter, you know, everything that he brought to that project, you know, everybody kind of took a part of that in piece, and it's still to this day, it's still being celebrated.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, and I want to just put that up real quick on the screen, but but we could keep it moving. What was your third choice, Brother Ish?
My third choice was Eric B. and Rakim Paid in Full. So look,
why?
Two points. 2 points before I dive into it. I forgot to mention, and it was on my brain, that for a small sliver of time in my life, in my junior, but really my whole high school life, I did DJ. Okay.
Oh wow.
So that played a heavy part in a lot of the things that I would listen to and the things that I would play. And I DJed for everybody from the older folks, of course, to my high school people that's probably going to see this and be like, oh yeah, I remember back in the day, just not cutting records, but just playing records. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and to RP's point and your point, Sin, I was stuck when it came to Stevie. And that's my number 7. It was between Songs in the Key of Life, Hotter Than July, or Innovisions. Okay.
Innovisions,
so,
yeah.
We'll get to that one. But to Eric B. and Rakim, look, I never forget when I bought the cassette in '86. Never forget it. Okay. Because I would listen to Wrap It Up radio show. I don't know if y'all remember that. There was a Wrap It Up radio show that played out of New York on the radio at night, like on Friday nights. And of course, being old school, I'm 51. Okay. So I'm hitting the record and I'm catching all the New York stuff. And then some of them tapes was coming down south. So I think it was Eric B. for President was the first single, if I remember correctly. So when I had the cassette, I went to the mall and bought the cassette. I'll never forget this. I had the cassette. I'm playing it on the back of the bus. And then I get to school and I'm playing it at school. And this white kid come to me and he saw the cover. And he said, who is this? Eric B. and Rakim? I said, no, man. But when I got there, it seemed like that was a catalyst for everybody else to start listening to it. I would always kind of be up on stuff a little early. And man, look, that you talk about a no-skip album. Look, it didn't help that the videos that was coming out, especially Move the Crowd, okay? We talk Move the Crowd and the symbology in the background to the God.
Universal flag.
And I wasn't on that at that time. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get on that until I was 19. But the imagery, I never forget it. And him standing there dressed in the suit with the dookie rope and Eric B in the background. I'm like, oh my, what is this? Because remember now, we're coming out of a time with Run DMC and them, okay?
Yeah. And
Curtis Blow and all the fellas, and even down south and out in west. I don't know if y'all ever heard of Rodney O and Joe Cooley.
Yeah.
WA early on, okay? They was bubbling at that time. They was bubbling, right? And of course, and I didn't put it on there because it wasn't as that influential, and I'm not trying to divert, you know, Luther Campbell and them boys down south. That was all at the same time. But this was, as RP just mentioned, this was a stamp on hip hop. Yeah, Run DMC Tougher Than Leather. Yeah, LL Cool J Bigger and Deffer. But even DMC himself said it. Okay, Rakim came out with a sound and a style and his lyricism that nobody else was doing in '86. Right? The closest thing to him was Mo D. That was out. Okay, but Rakim went this way with it. You feel what I'm saying? So I ain't even got to go over the track listing. I can just tell you the impact. You just press play on that in any era. That's going to, you know, get the crowd moving, get you to thinking. or even you hit the little instrumental joint. I forget the name of it. It's close to the end on side B. That tells you how far you go back with Eric B and Rakim.
Right. Right. Yeah, man, and another iconic cover as well. You know what I mean? Number 3, Mr. West.
Yeah, no doubt about that one. Yeah, that changed the game changer. For me, was Jodeci's Diary of a Mad Band.
Yeah, I chose that one too.
Okay, all right. Yeah, see. And I chose that one because, that album, was such a departure from their first album, and it really brought that edginess to R&B during that period. There were a few other artists too that did that, but I thought that album. I mean, it's sentimental for me because that album, that winter when it came out. I mean, I played that. It was one of the albums I had in heavy rotation. I mean, Fiendin', Your Heart Belongs to Me. I mean, all those albums. It was just the perfect blend of mid tempo and slow and ballads, but it wasn't sappy. It was edgy, but it was just right. It was just right the way they did it and executed it. And to think that, none of us had any way of knowing after that album came out that they would only put out 2 more albums over the course of the next 20 years. It's still mind-boggling to this day. How a group that was at their peak form at that time, I mean, right there with, discussed with Boys to Men who's the best group in R&B. And yeah, that album definitely was a standout for me.
Did they do Lately on that album?
No, Lately. Well, let me think. Because Lately was recorded for the Uptown Unplugged album.
Yeah.
They put that out then, and then the album came toward the end of that year. And so I have to look back over, but I don't believe Lately was on that album.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't on their first. So it was only on the Unplugged album, Uptown Unplugged.
Right.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, and Devontae Swing, I think he's just such an underrated
man.
Oh, very much.
Man, he doesn't get mentioned enough.
No.
So number 3, I went with the Superfly joint, man, Curtis Mayfield.
Okay.
And this I took a little turn when I got to this point, because this was something that growing up I had heard, Freddie's Dead and certain songs and all that throughout the years, but I wasn't really, I didn't grow up on the album. This is something that I actually had to go back to, you know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of albums like that because, again, the time period that we grew up in, like I mentioned, I was introduced to these sounds by a lot of older people when I was very young. But as I was growing up, we came through the crack epidemic and all of that. So a lot of the influences, they were snatched away from us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of them, they got incarcerated, they got strung out on drugs, or you know what I'm saying, they lost their lives or whatever the case may be. Once I got to like my adolescence and all of that, those people wasn't there no more, and I became like, I would say like a prisoner of my era, where I was only tapped into the music that was coming out during those times, you know what I'm saying? And I kind of got cut off from the roots of it, you know what I'm saying? And then after a certain period, I started to go back, you know what I'm saying? When I ended up getting incarcerated and I had a chance to sit down and slow down for a minute, I would be going through the credits on the albums that I was rocking with, and finding out where these samples came from, and then I would take my journey back, you know what I'm saying, and go listen and really soak it in. And so this soundtrack right here was one of those joints right here, and that's why I chose that, because that expanded my mind, you know what I'm saying? It opened me up, you know what I'm saying, to be able to appreciate some of the other music that I love, some of the stuff that I didn't put on here, like some of the Erykah Badu stuff or some of the Wu-Tang stuff that I didn't even put on here, because the only reason why I was able to even appreciate that music is because I went back to records like this, right, and it opened me up. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I'll just keep it brief like that. We on number 4 now.
Number 4 for me was Marvin Gaye's "I Want You" album.
I was listening to that this weekend.
Yeah, man.
That album to me, you know, first of all, the inspiration was his wife, Janice, I believe her name.
Janice, I think.
Yeah. So he wrote that. He put that whole album together. For her, he was inspired. You know, they had just got married. But it's like a supreme love letter album. You know what I mean in terms of like the production. He worked with a new producer by the name of Leon Ware, and he helped him bring the plushness to, you know, records like After the Dance, and you know there was a lot of songs on that project that just, I don't know, man. It changed the whole, you know, R&B landscape in terms of like what a whole love album could sound like. Um, and you know, I believe like Marvin was like at his best, you know, on that particular project. I mean, we had Let's Get It On, but I Want You just went to a whole another space where he was at, you know, sonically, his harmony layers.
Right.
It was just so much depth in that album, and it's like what I like about that album is like I can put it on now, and I'll find some different elements that I hadn't heard before from previous listens.
Right.
It's like it constantly evolves, it grows. Every time you listen to it, you find a different pocket. Just like to me, Voodoo is like that too. Like every time I play Voodoo, I learn or hear something totally different. You know what I mean? It keeps evolving for me. So I think I Want You was like, it changed the game for me, and I still listen to it. I still go back. You know, very impactful, very impactful.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't know if Marvin Gaye was the first one with that vocal production style.
Yeah,
but that shit hit different. I think, like you said, that adds so many layers to it. Like it depends on the system that you're listening to it in too. You know what I'm saying? You hear different stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I had it on this weekend, and when I was in the whip, I'm hearing stuff coming from this side that I never even heard before. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even know that was in there. You know what I'm saying?
That's a fact. The thing too, like if there's a version, there's like a acapella Congo version of I Want You the song. And you really, when you put the headphones on, you get to hear all the layers in the harmony layers that he laid when he stacked those vocals. You know what I'm saying? And he, you know, it's like it's amazing, man. Like how he was able to arrange his vocals in that manner. Because we hadn't heard anything like that, you know. And yeah, it's next level. That whole album. And then we're gonna go to the iconic painting, right? The album cover. You know what I'm saying? So that's a whole another chamber in that made that album iconic.
Yeah, it creates an atmosphere that kind of brings you to that era. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It just brings you to that moment. But go ahead, brother H.
So number 4 was Teddy Pendergrass, Teddy, 1979. Okay.
What's on that album? What records are on that album?
2 of the biggest bangers he ever produced. Come On and Go With Me and Turn Off the Lights. Y'all need to say it.
Oh yeah. Nothing else to be said.
That's the album right there. Okay. Straight up and down. That is the album. Let me tell you about this album. So I'm 6 at the time. Okay. My parents were still together. And my father told me probably about 6-7 months ago that Teddy P came to town, and he took his sisters. My father has 5 sisters, and he took 1 or 2 of his sisters, my aunts, and it was sick. It was crazy. You want to talk about male icon? Nobody other than Michael. Okay, let's not go there with Mike, but other than Michael, nobody was touching Teddy P. Teddy P. Listen, brother, I'm telling you, I remember the way that women would react to him as a child. And I'm like, wow. And just look at some of them old interviews. He did an interview, I think on Today's Show or something like that. And he was showing how many times the album went platinum. This was platinum back then, right? So that Teddy P album, that Teddy album, it was, when it came down to that, first thought was Teddy Pendergrass. Was I gonna go with Hal Melvin and the Blue Notes? You know what I'm saying? Or was I gonna go? I went with the one that I heard at the time. You know, I was soaking it in. You know what I'm saying? So, man, I'm telling you, people don't give. Just like RP was just talking about how, you know, people aren't giving that credit. You can't. Usher could only wish he could get to Teddy P's status, and no disrespect, but Chris Brown and them brothers, they could only wish they could get to that status that he was at that time. Because you're talking a time in between the late 60s up until his accident, I think 82, 83, if I remember correctly. You know, you're talking like a decade or so to where, you know, it's him and only a few others. So to RP's point as well earlier, and your point, Sincere, they was taken away from us to a degree. Teddy P by the accident, David Ruffin, you said dope. Okay, Gil Scott Heron, even though he wasn't necessarily an artist, but he was putting out, you know, the wordplay on it. You know what I'm saying? The spoken word joints.
Right.
So many of them was taken away from us. It was ridiculous. So, in essence, you know, as we look through these lists that we put together, you'll see, and I remember y'all's list, not verbatim, but how things started to evolve and change. And what your earlier point was, Sin, is, you know, things were taken away. So guess what came into place of it? Everything that was our background to break beats, hip hop. Hip hop was bubbling. Next thing you know, it shot out like a rocket. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yep.
That's indeed. That's indeed. On you, Mr. West.
All right. That's my first hip hop entry here. And so I chose Brand Nubians and God We Trust. One reason that happened to be the anniversary of the release of that album, February 2nd.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I tie that in as well. I was going to choose it anyway, but I just accelerated it because of that. But I chose that one. You know, typically, most people would typically choose their first, One for All, because that was a classic album and everything like that. But I thought this album was interesting because if anyone ever really wanted to gauge and get a sense of what the 5% ideology, Nation of Gods and Earth ideology was all about, and it wasn't boring, it wasn't, it was just the content of it. I mean, lyrical content. I mean, in terms of just the street knowledge, but then juxtaposed with the religious. I mean, you know, all those elements that make up 5%. It really embodied that. You know, and so that album was just that for me. And two, because it took most of us by surprise, because after Puba left, everyone thought, you know, a lot of people thought that Brand New was just going to fall off. Didn't happen at all, because we anticipated that Puba solo album.
Yep.
The Nubian album, the second album, really showed they weren't missing a beat.
Right. That's a fact.
Yeah, no doubt.
That is a fact. And it's a crime that I didn't have that on my list. It's a crime that I did not have that on my list.
Same here.
I am not who I am without that album. So yeah, definitely.
One of my favorites was Ain't No Mystery, Travel Jam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Meaning of the 5%. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, quick story. So I'm in the Army, right? And I had that as an intro on my answer machine. I was kidding. Yeah, it was. That was heavy.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do this. We on number 4, right? That was 4. Yeah, day 4, and I'm gonna just do this, man. My day 4 pick was this joint right here.
Oh my! Oh, yeah.
I mean, what more can I say?
Nothing.
What more can I say? I mean, it changed everything.
Yeah.
It changed everything. You know what I'm saying? Wu-Tang, to me, that's the best hip hop group ever. Some of the best MCs ever. You know, Ghostface being my favorite. RZA, probably my favorite producer. Definitely top 2, top 3. But this album right here, it changed everything. It made you, you know, reconsider everything that you thought it could be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everything that you thought it could sound like and feel like. There was so many layers and all the chambers and the way that it came together so cohesively with all these different personalities and different styles.
Yeah,
it's just genius.
Yeah,
genius.
Oh yeah,
and the album cover, of course.
Yeah.
So number 5, RP. We still doing all right on time. We're gonna be here probably for about another 30 minutes or so. I appreciate everybody rocking with us. You guys make sure y'all like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. We'll go another 30 minutes and then we'll just plan another day for part 2. You know what I'm saying? We get all the way through it.
Cool.
And it's funny because I chose the Brand Nubians One for All album.
Okay.
And I chose that album because you know, I knew Pooba from the Sexy record, you know, because that was a big record, you know, in the hood, like at parties. Like we knew, you know, we knew Don Barron and all them, you know what I'm saying? But Pooba was the standout. You know, lyrically he was a beast. So once I heard that he, you know, he had a group, so he was like Brand Nubian. And at that time, you know, the first record I heard was Feel So Good. That was their first video, and we got introduced to them as a collective. So that dropped during the summer. That video was everywhere. Video Music Box everywhere. And Feel So Good was being played in the parties everywhere we went, and it was a 12-inch single. So me being a DJ, I grabbed it. You know what I'm saying? So coming out of that whole summer, you know, because, you know, I got to set the tone with that. I mean, a lot of us didn't have we weren't able to go to the club, so we had parties, but how we were really introduced to new albums, we knew an album was popping was that if we stand outside and every car that passed us had boombox speakers and they was blasting that particular album, that's the album you knew you had to go get.
That's right.
Immediately. And where we used to go to the beauty supply shops to go get the cassettes and the vinyl. So when that album dropped, that was getting played. Every car that passed by in the hood was playing this album.
Yeah.
And when we talk about Slow Down, when we talk about Step to the Rear, when we talk about To the Right, Grand Pooba Maxwell with Positive LG joint. I mean, it's just so many layers, man. When we talk about the record Sunshine, that was another video that was everywhere, and it was being banned by MTV. So this album was very, very impactful, and it did set the stage for them to, you know, have their break off period. But it was like that album was what set the tone, and they were able to introduce the knowledge, but introduce it in an entertaining fashion. And I think, and you know what I'm saying, where all those songs resonated. You know, they resonated. Everybody was playing those records, whether you was a 5%er, Christian, whatever. You was playing that One for All album.
Without a doubt.
That whole summer was lit.
I remember writing down all the lyrics in a notebook. Radio, pressing pause, writing down press pause, like writing down all of the lyrics.
Yeah, it was crazy, man.
Yeah.
And the thing was, it got played in the street. It got played in the house parties and the underground parties. I mean, it just, that whole summer, it just took over. You know what I mean? And that legendary, that really cemented Pooba as a legendary figure lyrically. You know what I mean? And that really catapulted him he became a solo artist, but you know, that really set the stage for him to do what he did.
And Pooba's impact on fashion is not mentioned enough either.
Right.
Pooba was like one of the flyest dudes. He was the flyest dude in that era. We was all trying to dress like him.
Yeah, the whole Tommy Hilfiger brand.
Right.
Shouting out all the time. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Tommy Hilfiger, all them dudes, they owe a debt to Grand Pooba.
Big time. Big time.
So you is.
So number 5 we on, right?
Yeah.
Number 5. Oh, but hold on. When you brought up One for All and But the first two Brand Nubian joints, I gotta speak on this. When that video hit, okay, for Sunshine,
Yeah.
I had heard Grand Puba before with the Sexy joint.
Yep,
Okay,
Sexy dude. Yep.
And that's what likened me to listen to Brand Nubian. But when the video came out for Sunshine, it blew me away because I'm listening to the lyrics in the original video where they showing the devil, bro.
Oh yeah,
man. I had to say that piece because that was so impactful on me into getting the knowledge later on. You know, not too long after that. You know what I'm saying? But my number 5 was the Ohio Players, and you got to pull up this album cover because it was one of the most iconic album covers.
Oh,
yeah, you know I'm going.
I know where you're going.
But again, when you mention this album, it's only 2 standout records, but the records are so big.
The Fire, what's the album cover?
It's Fire. The name of the album,
Fire album.
Yeah, with the lady on it. That's all I got to say. You know what I'm saying?
Fire
So,
joint,
but when you look at that, Fire, of course, at the time was a phenomenal record. That record was huge, okay? But to me, one after that hit the charts was I Want to Be Free.
Yeah.
That record, okay, because it didn't match up with what they were putting out. It was funk that they was putting out. So if you notice, you know, when we get down to my 30, if funk wasn't on a record that I picked up, it wasn't a funk record. It was funk back beats on most of the stuff, or serious heavy vocals on a lot of the stuff that I picked up on. But look, again, I'm flipping the album covers and I'm like, whoa, as a kid, right? This was pre-Ice-T Power. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Good point.
It's probably where he got it from. I don't know. But to see that as a kid, and I'm like, wow, what? To hear the sound and be like, wait a minute, this is something different, you know. And they had a song called Running from the Devil. They had some hits on here, man. Yeah, Ohio Players is not mentioned in the great, you know, R&B or funk groups of all time. They kind of get, you know, pushed to the back when you talk about some of these other groups. But these guys, man, really, to be quite honest with you, that whole Midwest, that upper Midwest, man, you can't dismiss them brothers, man. You can't dismiss them brothers and sisters up there. They was heavy. They was super heavy.
They were pioneers for the funk sound.
Yeah.
Facts. All right. Yeah, that was a good one. Okay. On you, Mr. West, number 5.
Number 5 to me was Club Nouveau, Life, Love, and Pain. Now, as we go along, time goes along, people are going to forget this album. This generation don't even know anything about Club Nouveau, but that album was a big album in the mid to late 80s. You know, and it spawned numerous hits, R&B classics and everything like that. And that's part of why I included, because I think it was such a seminal album at the time. And again, you know, as time goes on, when you look at that period of time, it really embodied the era, you know, in some ways the crack era. You know, he talks like a paranoia. You hear the lyrics, you know, the dance, the just that whole period. I thought it really encompassed that, even from Lean on Me. I mean, the remake, and Why You Treat Me So Bad, and Situation Number 9, and Rumors. I mean, Heavy on My Mind. It was just an album, and as production was just top notch too. You talking about producers don't get enough credit. Foster McElroy, and in fact, thing I like about Jay Coon, who's one of the members, original members. You know, he even to this day, I mean, he's talking a lot of black business interests and ventures and everything. So he's on code, and you know, so that really made me appreciate him even more. But they put out an album. They put out an album about almost 10 years ago, Slamming. No one heard of it. Very few people heard of it. Didn't produce any hits for radio or anything. And I wish it had, because I was really impressed. All the original members back with the group. And so, yeah, that album, that was one of the albums that stood out to me. Too, that's why I
Classic.
Yeah. And this is one I gotta I gotta play the whole album. You know, I knew some of the Lucy's obviously Treat Me So Bad and maybe the Lean On Me joint, but I gotta really listen to that whole joint right there.
Yeah.
Oh, my number five is Anita Baker Rapture.
Oh.
So I gotta give a shout out to my moms on that one. You know, Love joint, you know, that just was on constant play. You know, again, running around the house singing like I'm a grown man that done been divorced a couple of times already. You know what I'm saying? That album is like, well, it's like 9 songs on there. Every song is perfect.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
No skips on the album. You know what I'm saying? Her vocal style and all of that. I want to say it's unique, but it has been emulated so many times afterwards. You know what I'm saying? So many people try to use that style, and people have done justice with it or whatever. But she's the blueprint for the Tony Braxtons and people like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But yeah, the Rapture, another one of those albums. Just album cover, it speaks for itself. 9 joints, no skips. Number 6, RP.
A Tribe Called Quest, Low End Theory.
Oh,
I was waiting for you to go there. I'm like, when is the RP going?
The Low End Theory album was a moment for them. I think that was like when it was a defining moment for all of them. Fife lyrically had come into his own. Q-Tip on the production, he had married the jazz. They found the jazz. So this was totally left from the first album. You know what I mean? Like, it was a cohesiveness on this album that they didn't have on the first album. It was like they were searching for something, because when you listen to the first album, Jungle Brothers were very instrumental in the production. Low End Theory was Q-Tip finding those jazz samples and kind of finding his way as a producer, and then saying, aha. In that aha moment, we got the jazz is born. Scenario was born. Just so Butter, there you go. A Word from the Abstract, when he brought in Ron Carter to play bass. It's just so many records on there. It's just like such an iconic moment for Busta Rhymes. I mean, it's just so many dope samples and the subject matter. Lyrically, Q-Tip was in his zone lyrically, and Fife just found his way, and they married each other, and it was a wrap. I mean, the Low End Theory was an album that it changed the game, and I think after that, there was like so many artists trying to find jazz samples, trying to make jazz rap. You know what I'm saying? So they were very instrumental in kicking down that door and kind of opening up our minds to all of these legendary artists like Grant Green and you know what I mean? Like, we started reading the album covers, you know what I mean? And once we start, like, where did they get this from? Who, where did they sample this? What jazz album was this from? And it kind of made me, because before the internet, we used to meet at the library. So we used to go to the library and look for reference CDs or reference vinyl. And we would grab the reference vinyl from the library and bring it home and listen to these jazz albums. So I became more of a student in that regard. So Q-Tip was very instrumental in kind of bringing that education to a lot of us musically.
Obviously, the painting as well.
Oh yeah.
This is also one of them joints where there's so many layers. Whenever you go back to it, you find something new.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, for sure. For sure. You want to add on, Ish?
Yeah, without a doubt. So it was hard not to put this one on here, but what I also wanted to do is not duplicate what I'd already seen. So almost every single one that you've all selected was on my plate, right? Because I actually started writing them down because I was like, I don't want to trip over myself. But look, the one thing for sure off of this album was Fife. for me.
Yep, right.
Because you didn't hear him, you hardly heard him on the first album.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, all right, I'm catching brother's vibe. And the way that it was infused with the jazz, because really at that time, I believe, I can't remember which came first. Whether it was this album or the first Gangstar album, where we started hearing some of those jazz tunes, and they were heavy in there. So it was kind of around the same time, but that's when I started picking up on like, okay, but to the liner notes piece, man, I was picking up on all these liner notes. And I don't know if y'all know this, but even in the 80s, the artists were writing their actual liner notes. This was in their hand, their words, not the writing, of course, but you can see the words that's written in Ebonics and broken English. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay. You know what I'm saying? But all that stuff played a heavy factor, man. Low End Theory, it's like it's up there with the Chronic, Illmatic, and Mr. Scarface is back to me as far as iconic hip hop albums, and of course, Eric B. and Rakim. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, when you hear those horns drop from Check the Rhyme,
man,
I mean that's just so iconic, man. Like
man,
when we first saw that video air and we heard those horns, we were like, oh my God, what is this? Exactly. And it just changed the game so much, man.
It did.
You know, so we done like, I gotta hear this album. When is this album coming out? You know, it was like, oh wow.
Yeah. No doubt. So number 6, excuse me, was you know, all I gotta say is Off the Wall.
Oh yeah.
I mean, people, there's this huge debate between Thriller and Off the Wall, which was better. I don't get into that. All I could tell you is every song minus 2 could have been a top 10 single. You didn't make them like that, but you go through one. It's 10 cuts on there, right? And I'm talking at that time and even now today, they would make in the top 10 of the charts, if not number 1. Quincy Jones, you know, he needs to go down. Like, I don't know what people can say about, you know, you can't say enough about Quincy Jones, you know, what he did for music, period. And think about the time that he come through. You know what I mean? He come through with Ray Charles, okay?
Right.
He come out of the Ray Charles era himself and come in and just transform. You want to talk about R&B? Oh my goodness. He put Michael at that time, you know, because Michael was definitely seen as the lead singer of the Jackson 5. But and this was original Michael, you know, before he had surgeries, and of course, before he had, I think it's called vitiligo issues coming on. I'm a child at the time. There was a rumor, and I remember this rumor to this day, and Pensacola people know what I'm talking about. There was a place called the Pensacola Auditorium. It's set on the bay, the Pensacola Bay. We're right at the mouth of the Gulf of Mexico. There was just a rumor that he was coming to play there. Man, it was people were going crazy. This was before Michael was international Michael. Okay. So people got to put, when people, you know, talk about Mike and what he did for music, period, him and Quincy Jones are emeritus status, man. You don't compare them to nobody. And this album is the one that put them through the roof. Yeah. Where they can't be touched. You can't say nothing about them. Look, I'm telling you, you put on all of those, every single one of those records, and those records today with children. Here's the thing, okay? This is what I saw, and more so from Michael himself, and definitely with the production that he had with Quincy. You put Michael on with a newborn child, toddler, and they will know who Michael Jackson is.
You're right.
True rhythm. My daughter, okay? I'm playing these records. She's like, Michael Jackson. I'm like, what in the heck? Man, this joker, talk about voodoo. Oh my God. Brother.
FBA magic.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I liken it to. Because all these albums, for the most part, they had that spark in them. And that spark, I want to touch on one more thing before we go too far, because I don't want to forget it. Mr. West mentioned about overseas. If you've never been overseas and seen how they react to our music, the FBA music, Foundational Black American music, it is insane. Okay. You think that we love it. Oh, no. Look, They even had it in, because I was over there, my family and I was over there from 97 in Germany from 97 to 2000. Okay. I didn't understand that they were making European records, singles, and sometimes a whole album. But it wasn't just hip hop at the time. Curtis Mayfield did it. Okay. So I don't want to get off of Michael, but I'm just talking about the global impact. And when you talk about Off the Wall and stuff like that, man, you just put that by itself and say, hey, man, you don't mention nothing about Off the Wall and Thriller in 1999. You know what I'm saying? You put them out there and you just say them and put your hands up. That's really all you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yes, sir.
I think I mean what I watched I'm gonna tie this in, and it might be a little controversial. I don't know if you brothers will agree, but when I looked at the recent documentary, which was The Making of Thriller, there was parts of it that said, you know, when Michael and Quincy came back in, Michael wanted #1 songs. He wanted to create pop songs at that point. So when I listened to the Thriller, and then when I go back to Off the Wall, I realized that, you know, Off the Wall was more of a soulful, more of a soul funk rhythm and blues piece. Thriller was more of a extracting of moving away from the soul and more going into a lighter pop space. So when he started pairing, like, you know, the rock guitars and all of that stuff, and you know, he started stripping the soul and everything kind of away. So we kind of championed Off the Wall more because he made that for us.
That's it.
And I'm gonna leave it right there.
No,
that's it. No doubt.
As great as Thriller is, and it is great.
Yeah,
that's absolutely true, and that was done intentionally.
Yeah,
he wanted to be #1.
Yep,
100%.
Yep. He wanted the same footing as the Beatles, the same footing as Elvis. That's why he did that song with Paul McCartney. He wanted that audience, and he was very intentional about that.
Okay. Even though he had Paul on Off the Wall,
right?
Yeah.
That wild. That's kind of wild how you said. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's
was very. When you watch that documentary, it'll change your mindset toward that project. I'm like, okay, I see.
I gotta check that.
Yep.
Wow.
That's heavy.
And what say you, Mr. West?
All right. My number 6 is very influential artist, gone too soon, and he does not get the credit that he deserves even to this day. Simple with aficionados. Donny Hathaway, Stench of a Man.
Stench of a Man. Ooh.
Yes. To me, that's his magnum opus. That album, I mean, Valdez in the Country, Someday We'll All Be Free, which a lot of people know. Love, Love, Love. I mean, it was just, he really went in on that album. And so, yeah, I couldn't do a 30-day challenge without including him in one of those.
More than you ever know.
Man, I got Donnie in there too. But man, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. Wow.
And this Google image isn't too clear, but
yeah, that's a legendary piece, man.
Yeah,
that was his last one.
Yes, last full-length album. He did like a live album.
Yep.
I think he did a live album after that, and then of course he came back with Roberta Flack and did 2 other albums, you know, a couple years later. But yeah, right before he passed. I mean, well, you know, that situation.
Yes, indeed. And so, yeah, kids, make sure y'all go back and listen to all these albums. I hope y'all taking notes. You know what I'm saying? Anything that we mentioned here that you're not familiar with, find some time, you know, clean the trap music out your ears for a minute. Just go hit play, you know what I'm saying? Go hit play, you know what I mean? And just take it in, soak it up.
Change your life.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with the trap music. I'm not shitting on the trap music. I like the trap music too, but I'm just saying you gotta clean it out to be able to absorb it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so my number 6, and we'll go to number 7 and we'll stop there. But my number 6 pick was K Solo's album.
Ooh.
Yeah, I tried to I tried to go a little different on this. Tell the World My Name, K Solo album. And my thought process behind this was in the early 90s, like pre Illmatic, my favorite rapper was Redman. Redman was my favorite MC. And before Redman, it was K Solo. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I was gonna go with a Redman album on this one, but I thought about that. You know, I thought about the question of the challenge. You know what I'm saying? What influenced your taste in music? So, you know, why would I even like a Redman in the first place? It's because I was already obsessed with this album right here, this K Solo album. You know what I'm saying? I knew every word by heart. You know what I'm saying? He was doing the Spellbound, Your Mom's Is in My Business, and all of that. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, that was just one of those ones for me. You know, it's not necessarily a hip hop classic per se. It's not something that I listen to all the time still, but it is something that influenced my taste in music. So it made the cut.
Great choice. Great choice.
All right, number 7.
Number 7, Public Enemy, Fear of a Black Planet. I mean, I really don't have to say much, right?
RP went with straight classics. RP
Look at that, you know what I'm saying? Like, first single on that album, Chuck D premiered on Long Island Radio, Strong Island Radio, and it was Welcome to the Terror Dome.
Man.
And, you know, when I heard that, when he debuted that, I was like, it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, it's over.
Yeah.
You know, after that, then once the album rolled out, you know, Brothers Are Gonna Work It Out. You know, we had Burn Hollywood Burn with Ice Cube and Big Daddy Kane, and then the magnum opus record, which was featured in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, Fight the Power.
That's right.
And we had the iconic Elvis line.
That's right.
Elvis was a hero to most, right?
That's right. That's right.
And that album, as I said before, you know what the top album is in the hood. When every car that passes you is bumping that album as loud as hell out their car.
Yes, sir.
And Fear of a Black Planet was the Bomb Squad and Chuck D and Flavor, to me, was their magnum opus for me. I think like the production, they had found everything. They were operating on every cylinder. It was like, we found it. We know who we are musically. You guys know, you guys are totally in sync. And this is our presentation, man. I think even for other producers, after they heard that album, it changed production for a great deal. Because even Dr. Dre said, you know, he said, look, I was a fan of the Bomb Squad. If you really listen to a lot of those early guys, a lot of those, you know, Mark the 45 Kings and all them guys, you know what I'm saying? They were, the Bomb Squad set a standard, man. And they and like Chuck D said, it was like a factory car line. Like when they made beats, they all kind of added different elements to that beat. So when you put, like Cecilia said earlier, when you put those headphones on, you listen to a Bomb Squad production, you're hearing stab guitars, you're hearing all kind of sounds and stuff popping up everywhere. And then you put that together, and it was like organized noise, right? And then you put Chuck D's voice on top of that. You got Terminator X scratching all type of scratch sounds and stabs all over the place. And then you got Flavor Flav, just adding the joke element to it. So, and then Professor Grip comes in with his,
that's right,
his, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's the perfect complement to the production, man. It was like Fear of a Black Planet was it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, when you have my father and his cousin, they're close to the same age, and the elders at the time, they weren't talking about necessarily the record, but you know how you be watching music videos in the afternoon, and they be like, man, that young fella there, he limber. You know, they were talking about Flav on 911 joke when he was dancing.
911 was a joke, yeah.
But they caught the message. These are the elders. They're standing and watching like I'm watching, right? So everything that you're saying, it resonated on so many levels. It's not even funny. The Bomb Squad is one of the most underrated production crew in music history because the sounds that they put in. Okay. All right. Now I'm gonna say something a little controversial, but and it's not just because of my Southern roots, but the Southern version of that was Beats by the Pound.
I already knew that's what you.
Yes.
I knew you. Knew
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm just telling you because they did a similar thing, right?
It's not as controversial as it's not as controversial as you would think. If you know, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, true indeed, true indeed. So when you hear that and you hear, I forget who said it. I think it was Chuck or someone was saying it in an interview about the Bomb Squad's production. They said it sounded like a bunch of noise.
Yeah,
it sounded like a bunch of noise, and then when you break in between that and you start to listen, or as in our departed elder Dick Gregory would say, you hear the cracks in the fabric. Okay, you catch the cracks in the fabric, you going into a totally different world, man.
Exactly.
PE hit 3 out of the park.
Yeah,
the way they were,
it was chaotic, but it was but it made sense. It was just beautiful. The way they showed us that there was a different way to arrange sound without actually being, from a musicianship standpoint, but they took all type of samples and they bridged that gap, and they were able to show you that you could take any type of sound and arrange it from a noise to actually make it sound like an instrument.
And that's what I was going to say. It also came from, I think, obviously the lack of instrumentation, but also the technology that was available.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The technology that was available is like, what can we do? How can we maximize what we have here with these machines? You know what I'm saying? And genius.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. It's hard not to pick one of those first 3 PE albums straight up and down.
Oh yeah.
But to go to number 7, and I know we pressed. This another throw your hands up, because you pick one of these, one of Stevie's in his first I call it tier, you can't miss, and that's Innovisions.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Look here, man. Look, let me tell you, I think Sincere said it earlier, some music you have to hit different spaces. You got to hear some hip hop with the deep 808 in a car, with some banging, with some kick drums, or not kick drums, with some super bass. You know what I'm saying? But Innovisions I had in the headphones, and I was walking. I'll never forget, man. I'm walking, and I'm like, it felt like I was in a dream. You know what I mean? When Stevie took you on that ride in Innovisions, and then you look at that album cover, you like, man, that brother can't see, but his eyes is wide open. You dig what I'm saying?
Yep.
So
facts.
Look at that transition. Look at that.
Yep.
Right.
You think about that, and you talk about music, not only musical genius, but how he tied in our vibration at the time. All right. And that vibration can go at any era, in any era, for Songs in the Key of Life, Innovisions, and I would even go as far to say maybe Hotter Than July. When you put those together like that, and look, and this is another no skipper, right? There's maybe one that you could toss out, Jesus, Children of America, but the rest of them, you put them on, they just continue to play every single song. And remember, at that time, they weren't doing 15, 20, 30 songs. They was doing 9, 10 songs. This had nine cuts on the joint.
Yep.
One of my favorites is He's Mr. Know-It-All. And I'm when the tunes get to playing, the piano gets on that, man, he gets super, super heavy. It hits your soul. You can vibrate with that entire song to me. And what he's talking about dope back then, right?
Yeah.
He's talking about the heroin era. Okay.
It was trap music.
Hey, straight up and down. You know what I mean?
Same thing with Curtis Mayfield.
Absolutely. Even James Brown, he did it with the King Heron album. A lot of folks don't know that.
Heron joint. Yeah.
Okay. So we was, again, when we talk, and I mentioned this earlier, and I really wish that everybody could hear this when you listen to the playback and just take this into account. Don't take my word for it. Take these words when you talk about classic album, time, the inner mind's eye. Okay, present, past, future. How did it hit then? That's when we talk about classics, because to Sincere's point, that K Solo album was bananas.
Yeah,
I love K Solo, but I was like, is it that or what the album? You know what I mean? It's tough. You know? And I didn't. So I said, no, I'm gonna just go with something else. I ain't gonna choose neither one of them. Right. I could recite Your Mom's in My Business, Letter Man, all of that. I could recite those and I ain't write them down because I'm just like, man, these dudes are phenomenal. But back to Stevie, Mike, Marvin, these are one words. Whitney, Luther, Prince. You ain't got to say their last name. Okay.
Yep.
You talk about classics, they have at least three. Okay. And in hip hop, Scarface, Q, P.E., BDP. Okay. I mean, and I'm gonna say this, some people ain't gonna agree. Outkast. Okay. Classic. Three classics. That to me, there's no debate in that, really. You know, you can pick and choose and kick one out, but you talk about those, and you're like, man, don't even talk about these folks when you talk about, you know, the impact that they had not only on the culture, because see, we're just talking about right here, like I talked about Europe earlier. Man, around the world, they'll be loved bigger than we could ever imagine.
Big time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, Stevie Innovisions, man. That's look, man. They can play that at my funeral.
I was going to mention with the PE album, if you go back and look at those PE concerts, you see a sea of white people.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. They white people in the audience wearing Marcus Garvey t-shirts.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Number 7, Mr. West.
Yes, real quick, Innovisions, I would have picked that. Someone else had picked it before me, but to me, that's his mag. I mean, you can argue any with Steve, those albums that came in that period of Stevie, but to me, that's his sharpest because it's 9 cut. It's like the equivalent of Nas's Illmatic. Right to the point, just punch. Can't miss it. To me, someone we haven't mentioned yet, of all the iconic artists, James Brown. And I went with the Payback album. I could have picked JB's. I almost picked one of the JB's album. Could have picked any other, but those Polydor albums of his, you know, that's where he really hit his mark. And his influence long term, particularly with hip hop, you know, with the sampling and everything. And that album, which is supposed to be, my understanding, the soundtrack for Hell Up in Harlem, the sequel to Black Caesar. It just didn't pan out, so it became just one of his standard another one of his standard solo albums. And the Big Payback, you know how influential that was on hip hop and black music in general, R&B. How many people have sampled that one song alone? But one of the favorite tracks on there for me was Mind Power. I mean, just the long length of it. You know, you don't work, you don't eat, you know. Kenny, I mean, and then he just went, and then Fred Wesley coming in with the horns. That's right. You know, oh man.
And I think you don't get hip hop without that record. You don't get rap music.
Not at all. Not at all.
But that Mind Power is funny because now when you said that became Stakes is High. That vibration. You know.
Okay.
Produced by the great Jay Dilla.
Yeah.
No doubt. Heavy. I didn't know that. Okay.
And as we were going through this 30 days, I felt crazy not putting a James Brown album up there, but I had to keep it a buck because I'm familiar with a lot of records, but I never sat with a James Brown album. You know what I'm saying? Like just listen to a James Brown album. I just knew songs, you know what I'm saying? Really just based on the songs that were sampled. You know what I mean? Back and listening to those records and stuff like that. But I never really was tapped into a James Brown album from top to bottom. So I couldn't include one unless I was going to do a greatest hits. And I was trying to stay away from the greatest hits joint.
Yeah. Same here.
It's on my list for sure. James is on there. And when we come back, I'm gonna show you a picture where I met the brother.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
Nice.
All right, no doubt. All right. Number 7. I call everybody off guard with this one.
I know what you're doing.
Number 7, I went with Metallica, Justice for All album.
Justice for All, yeah.
Okay.
And so, fun fact about me. Hold on, let me pull up the cover. Hold on. Yeah, fun fact about me. Around this time, I was a skateboarder. I was into skating heavy, right? And at that time, in the late '80s, it wasn't a lot of black skaters. It was like me, my brother, and my homeboy, and then everybody else was just a bunch of white boys. It was all headbangers that would be at the skate parks, and you know what I'm saying, shit like that. And so that opened me up to getting into the heavy metal. You know what I'm saying? And the punk rock and all of that stuff. That's what would be playing when we were skating at the parks and all of that. And so I actually honed in on Metallica. Metallica just became my favorite. And this album right here, it had that song "One" on it. And it opens up with that guitar. It's kind of like a ballad in the beginning before it gets real hard. And so I think that's what helped me be able to, get into the vibration, because all of the loud screaming and all that, at first it was just noise to me. You know what I mean? I would just be out there at the park and shit was playing. I didn't really like it. But that song "One," the way it opened up, it had a little bit of soul to it. You know what I'm saying? It progressed into the real hard guitars and all of that stuff and the screaming and all that. But it helped me get into the vibration where I could understand the music more, and I started to rock with all of their albums really, and other bands like Iron Maiden and Alice Cooper and different hard rock, heavy metal acts that I got into. But this was my introduction to that right there, the Justice for All album. So that was my number 7 pick right there.
Dope.
And with that being said, we're gonna have to do a part 2, maybe even a part 3.
Yeah.
But this is necessary, and this is dope. You know what I mean? We get to sit here and really pay homage to a lot of the icons. You know what I'm saying? And talk about our influences and all of that, and our thought process behind this whole thing. Appreciate everybody tapping in with us as well. I think y'all get up now. We at the end of the broadcast, but make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. We will be back again for part 2 to try to get through this list. I knew we wasn't gonna be able to get through the whole list anyway, but it's all good. Last words from everybody for tonight. Anything you want to say, RP?
I mean, I really enjoyed this, man, and hopefully, it like you said, a lot of the youth will pick up on some of the history, and they will dig back into the artistry of the legends that we've discussed tonight, and hopefully it would allow them to create, some innovative stuff moving forward to propel and push the culture forward.
Yeah.
Great point. Great point, brother. Go ahead, Brother West.
Oh, okay. No, I completely agree. I mean, in fact, when you tagged me, in the challenge, I didn't think I would be ready. But, once I got started, it was just on from there. And when I got toward the end of my challenge, and I tagged tag a friend a day, some people who are in the music, I thought would be receptive to this challenge, but they never partook in it. And then other people, they have, some people, they would start, they do like 2 or 3 days, and they would drop out and probably try to pick back up. But I got a few people, other people, producers, DJs like yourself, RP, who got involved in this, and they're still going strong. And, they're probably, they could just as easily be up here too, laying it out, what was behind their methodologies and choosing the records they did. But this has been fun. This has been, and it really, some days I would have like a few items I would want to choose from, but then I would go off course and choose something completely not on my radar at the time. So this is improvisational in many ways as well.
So I can tell you for sure, I think after day 2, maybe even day 1, I was writing them down on a sticky note. So then I said, you know what? I'm not just going to keep track of what's, because it's already on Facebook. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write the ones that I definitely have to have. I can't go without having these on here. Man, my list was probably close to 50 or 100. And I was already in, day 2, day 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to Mr. West's point, I hit some of my people up. Some of them didn't respond, or some of them didn't read the challenge correctly, and they would just put like an album cover in the comments. But a few of them, man, when they delved deep, and a couple of them thanked me for it, you know, because it did what we're talking about right now. It tapped into those ancestral memories, even though we're not ancestors. It's tapping in to what caused these people to put our people to put those records together, and the time and space that they were in when these records were out. You know what I mean? Whether they were out or whether you picked up onto them later, like I picked up onto one of the greats of all time, Sam Cooke. I picked up on him later. You know what I mean? So that's what this did for me. And when I got tagged with, I was like, oh boy, oh no, I got to get on this. I said, no, man, I'm definitely hitting this heavy and hard. But when we get to the end, I'm gonna tell you some of the ones that I missed, and I'm like, I ain't gonna lie to you, I feel bad, man. I'm like, how did I not choose these? You know what I'm saying?
Same way.
But I appreciate the challenge, and I definitely love this, no doubt.
For sure. And look, man, same here, man. You know, I know everybody that know me was waiting for me to post Illmatic. I ain't even post Illmatic. You know, what I'm saying? I didn't even post like I said, I was trying to approach it differently. You know what I'm saying? But what I want to do, man, since this was such a fun thing and such an educational thing for me, you know what I'm saying? I want to figure out a way to keep it going, but remix it a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Just for us to be able to keep putting each other on to different music. You know what I'm saying? So I'll figure out, a caption, a way to word it to where we can expand it and do it a little different and kind of keep the energy going. You know what I'm saying? But I appreciate you tapped in with you brothers. You know what I'm saying? On Facebook and whatever platforms or whatever the case may be, just to be able to receive the energy from you guys. I definitely appreciate it. So yeah, let's find a way to keep this thing going, I say. And we'll be back to finish the breakdown for this challenge right here. We'll figure it out, get everybody together, get the band back together, and do this again.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Sounds good.
And so, family, I appreciate everybody tapping in with us again. As you heading out, again, make sure that you like, share, subscribe. I know some of y'all watching this on Facebook, but if you're not subscribed to me on YouTube, make sure you're going on over to YouTube. Just type in my name, Sincere Love to God. Hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you can be reminded whenever we go live with new episodes. We do all type of stuff on this channel. Me and my sister Nicely Girl, we got Sincere Love to God cast that we try to do every Sunday, where we cover current events and just break down things that are happening in the world from a new Black media perspective. And also, we have the Black Business Showcase that we try to do on Wednesday nights. So if you are a business owner or entrepreneur and you would like to have your business showcased on our channel, just hit me up, slide in the DMs or whatever. Let me know what you got going on. And we'll see what we can do about getting you on the schedule for that. Also, me and my brother DJ RP Beats, for those that don't know, we come together and we form a group called Master Elements. And our latest project is called The Master's Table. And that album is available on all streaming platforms. I can go check that out, as well as some of our previous work, The Spear and the Shield, the Master Elements album. And yeah, I don't know when the next one is coming, so don't harass my life, Ishmael.
He said two.
Gotta do it.
Life been lifing lately, so I just ain't. I'm the type of person, I don't like to force it. The music can't be forced. It has to come naturally, organically. And whenever the ancestors are ready to speak, I'm gonna definitely put it down, and we're gonna make it do what it do. So until next time, this has been. How do I end it again? Ish. What's the lines?
Oh man,
Right.
We're not the master teachers. You got the rest. There you go.
We are master students.
Master
and
students.
Signal boosters for the voices of the new Black media. Peace.
Peace.
And black love.
Peace.
All right.
Yeah, like that. Let's see what's in the God's mind. Listen.